After about 50 plus years, I'm now starting to understand a dream I had back when I was about 8 or 9 years old. And in this dream, I was in combat and I saw a lot of Americans slaughtered. And I heard like the enemy come in, which were Asian. They were Asian, China, whatever. And I heard them coming, and I remember laying on the ground playing possum. I was playing dead. And while I was laying on the ground with my eyes closed, I can hear them talking in their language around me. And what they were doing was they hated Americans so much that they were shooting the dead bodies that were on the ground. And I remember laying there just hoping that they didn't shoot me because I was laying on the ground playing dead. And I was laying there and they was just stepping over me and they were just walking around, and some of them were shooting American dead bodies that were already on the ground. And I woke up. Now I had that dream about 2 or 3 times as a child. I had to be about 8 or 9 years old, maybe 10. And this is a dream that I kept having. Never thought about it until I saw a news video, which I'm about to let you see. Now, this was CBS News. I want you guys to pay attention to what this woman is saying. And this is happening right now.
Thank you for joining us. Tonight we're broadcasting live aboard the USS Nimitz. And while we can't give you our exact location, we can tell you we are here in the Western Pacific Ocean. We landed here just moments ago after boarding a C-2 Greyhound in Guam and landing on the deck of this massive aircraft carrier that stretches nearly 1,100 feet long. That's more than 3 football fields. And about this exact location on the ship, it's called Vulture's Row. It is a viewing platform high above the flight deck where the crew and others can observe the flight operations below. Today, the world is marking 1 year in the war in Ukraine, when Russia unleashed the largest ground invasion in Europe since World War II. We've got reports tonight from Ukraine, with CBS's Charlie D'Agata, and from the Pentagon, with CBS's David Martin, who takes an in-depth look at the billions of dollars in military aid for Ukraine. All this as the U.S. prepares for a potential conflict with China. Tonight, the U.S. is confirming that they're going to be sending additional troops to Taiwan. That is big news. It is historic because the troops will deploy to the crucial island to help build out a training program amid increasing tensions with China.
It's here in the Western Pacific where America's naval power is on full display. The USS Nimitz with more than 60 planes and 5,000 sailors. Guam is where we took off from this morning. It is considered the tip of the spear, one part of the Marianas, a strategic location used during World War II to launch the bombs that forced Japan to surrender. Today, Guam houses 3 military bases, Air Force, Navy, and now a new home to 5,000 Marines, the first new U.S. military base in 70 years, part of a new buildup in the region. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin announcing earlier this month the U.S. will expand its military presence in the Philippines.
That's just part of our efforts to modernize our alliance. And these efforts are especially important as the People's Republic of China continues to advance its illegitimate claims in the West Philippine Sea.
Take a look at America's military might, from Guam to Japan to the Philippines. The Chinese foreign minister complaining again this week that it's all an effort to contain China and prevent it from controlling Taiwan.
Democracies of the world will stand guard over freedom today, tomorrow, and forever.
China and Russia declared just over a year ago a no-limits friendship. Presidents Xi and Putin set to meet again soon. These pictures show war games and joint naval drills involving China and Russia happening right now.
How closely is Xi Jinping and China watching the war in Ukraine?
Xi Jinping is likely watching the war in Ukraine very closely because it has both economic implications for China diplomatic implications for China and military implications for China.
Toshi Yoshihara has spent his career studying the Chinese Navy. He says Xi Jinping is learning lessons as the Chinese president considers invading Taiwan.
The first is the nuclear saber-rattling that Putin engaged in at the outset of the conflict. Now, while Putin's nuclear threats did not stop the West from helping Ukraine, I think it was clear that the United States and its NATO allies were very cautious, took Putin's words seriously. And so Xi Jinping might learn that it might be to China's benefit to similarly engage in early nuclear threats.
Republican Congressman Mike Gallagher is a Marine veteran and chairs the new House committee focused on China.
One of the lessons of Ukraine is that when dictators tell you they're going to do something, you should pay attention.
President Biden has pledged to defend Taiwan, setting the U.S. and China up for a possible conflict this decade.
If this thing really escalated into a conflict between our navies, that would entail a level of destruction and death that we haven't seen for a long, long time.
We're seeing firsthand how the Navy is preparing for that possible conflict in the Western Pacific. We'll have much more for you tomorrow and soon on 60 Minutes.
Now, I find that to be quite interesting, and it came back to my mind, and I'm sitting there watching this article, and the first thing that flashed back in my head was that vision/dream I had when I was about 8 or 9 years old. And I just could not understand why me as a child was having that dream. I didn't even think ahead to think that this might have been talking about something that was going to occur in the far future. So now I'm 62 years old, and now we're just starting to see, in my opinion, this dream starting to manifest. But again, a lot of Americans as well as Asians are going to die during this conflict. If there's a war, which it is inevitable, if there is a war, many Americans as well as Asians will die. This will be a horrible war. And this is not a time for the U.S. government to disarm legal citizens, because legal citizens would only be a backup for the United States military, just in case that war kind of leaks onto American soil. We can defend ourselves not just against enemies foreign, but also domestically. Okay, so I think this is a bad time to try to disarm American citizens, right? But that's a whole new topic. But I just find it interesting that I had this dream. I kept having this vision back when I was about 8 or 9 years old. And now we're actually talking about conflict where now the military is building up on the Pacific to fight. America is now they're just positioning themselves, just like Asia is positioning themselves. And this is a time where the bear and the eagle will meet. Russia is known as the bear. China and Russia is now starting to team up against the West. So you guys better buckle up, because a lot of Americans are going to die. So feedback, tell me what you think, subscribe. Until next time, I'm fearless.